Yo, say welcome, people of the nations. Right, I'm just living in projects. Right? And I said I'd reduce time filming myself. And so, well, you're looking at all of this art, and while I can tell you basically from the bottom of my heart, because I've looked deep, while I can tell you that I am doing all of this, you can still believe that, you know, I trained an AI to make it look like it's tracing lines of sketches. You see, I really don't give a lot of meaning to other people's suspicions. I just wish to make this really clear, because at the end of the day, there's content online and people click on it and then they either spend time with it or they do their own thing, right? So I believe that it would be more effort to fake, you know, to try and fake doing this yourself than to just do it yourself. I mean, anyone who's looking at the stuff that I've created and says, yeah, I cannot believe he did that himself. Well, do you see these images moving? I mean, this is not a movie. This is something fairly static. If I'd have a team, I would make movies. But I haven't done that because tracing lines is already a lot of work. I mean, I really had to learn a lot about what's the most efficient diet so that I can continue to do this, because it's not just sitting down and just tracing lines. I mean, I'm talking about I'm doing this on my own. And as nice as this is, to me as somebody who likes nature and who sees himself as also some kind of ancient type of warrior, this is meaningless. I'm just doing it because this entire world is super, you know, like playful, childlike. I mean, everybody's inner child is really screwed up. Really screwed up. If you're just a bit like a lion, people already run around screaming. And everybody wants attention. I just was looking for a way to communicate what I found, and I can tell you I can continue creating stuff until the end of my days, and I would never manage to say it in a satisfying way. And I'm really breaking myself, or I have, so I believe. Right? I mean, I'm just receiving, or I have received, right? I cannot live in the past. I have received one blowback after another until the point where I just turned off my doorbell because I was just too afraid of my own life reaching out to me, because I have no idea what my life really has in store for me. I just want to continue like this. But I also became really protective of my own space, including the space I have created online, which is why I just didn't want any comments. And I just didn't want any, sure, like it. I did it to inspire people. I didn't want to have like real followers that wanted to engage with me. The only reason I wanted to have followers was so that people really, could learn from what I have done without engaging with any kind of weird fake community in some kind of a chat or whatnot. I didn't want people to focus on me. I wanted to give people something that would help them to focus on themselves. So you can look at any of my images and you can take me completely out of it and just look at it, what does it mean to you? And then you just look at it, and that's why often also in my podcast episodes and in my books, sometimes these things, there's shifts in character. There are so many shifts, so many moments where I just drop it and start something else. And also in these images, there are so many things you can discover that can show you where you stand right now, just by looking at it and saying, okay, what triggers me the most, right? What triggers me the most in a sentence, in an image, in a video? If I can vex you, then you're missing something in your own life. And I'm fairly good at vexing people, right? There's a lot of people who they want me to give them something, but I'll give them probably what they don't want, which is, do it yourself. I just had this instant, I came from a 12 to 13 hour hike, and I was just, the last 2 hours were just paranoia and fear. Everything just went haywire, and I couldn't stretch out the hike because there was this longing in me to just finish the hike and just get it over with and just get back here and continue working. Because this world of all this content and creation, all that kind of stuff, it's super hectic because there's such a high demand. I really don't know how Hayao Miyazaki did it, that he really took his time with his creations. You can just give credit for that. But in The Boy and the Heron, I think you can tell it's not as refined anymore. I think he lost kind of track of his own creation. It's not the finesse that we have seen in Mononoke Hime, or it just doesn't have that. It's like a mashup. It's a lot of stuff in there, but it feels like he's getting a bit old or too proud, right? Like he just wants to throw stuff out. I think so. Yeah, he's coming towards the end of his days, so there's probably also a lot of fear that he will not be able to continue. So there's a part of me that believes that The Boy and the Heron was his last one. So in this image, that I am working on right now, which you won't be seeing like this, it says the last one question tag. Is he gonna, you know, what is he? Yeah, okay. You know, I don't really know, to be honest. Because I have thought that I was going to stop before and then I continued. To me, my life is, I just don't know. You could say it's an open book because I'm actively living I'm living it, so I'm actively looking at my own life while living it. So the book is open, I'm living it, but I don't know what the next page is gonna bring. So there are things which I have said I would do, but I tried doing them before, it didn't work. So it is possible that I will simply continue. At the same time, it may be possible that I will just stop. It's a mystery to me. If my life supports it, I will continue to work on these creative projects. Simply because I don't know what else to do in the world the way it is today. I just don't know what else to do, right? And that to me then is an honest effort to say, hey, I actually want to stay alive. I mean, I have been brought up with screens. And this is how a lot of people learn today. I don't really like this. Let's be honest about it. But it's the way I can reach a lot of people that want to learn about how to communicate emotions, how to communicate what they feel. But what you feel is often not clear until you have observed it and you also have trained communication a lot. So drawing an image is one way to communicate something. Putting colors to the image adds another layer of communication. And then of course filming how you're tracing the lines, how you're putting the colors to the image, and then, you know, seeing how the image takes shape. It's another level. Of course, if you now would have, but I like images that are static. It's nice to see how they get into shape or something. And that's just what I feel. But yeah, this is what I have done until now. I have said that if I would have help, people who like, I mean, I'm not talking, this is not advertising. I can only work with people that I know and that I trust and that I can also see in real life. I'm not asking for people to contact me and say, hey, you know, I thought you still need some. No, I don't need that. Because life will show me these people. I don't want people to write to me and ask me if we can do a project together. Because it would only annoy me. And I don't want to fly people across the globe. There are people where I live. You have to look for people where you are. You know, this is already all so global and so far away. So I just don't want it. I'd work together with people that are really where I am. And then I could imagine myself having some kind of an office where we can work on projects such as this, where I can guide other young minds, like local young minds. We're not talking about, that's my idea, which I can share with you, that you can get better, but then look locally for people you can connect with. People who share your, hey, I have grown up here, I'm a part of this thing. So I'm looking for a team in my own local area, right? And for that I can continue working, because in this kind of a world, if you have an open mind, you want to put it to use, then you have to learn how to communicate your message. So my message has a lot of animal, dragon, so it's the magic we're missing. I have magic in my life, but this magic goes both ways. I still have moments of a lot of, I don't want to call it depression, it just says it's a low point. So I perceive a lot of dark stuff. And then my job is to bring it into the light. That's what a magician does. Just because people don't believe that magic is real doesn't mean it cannot exist. It just means that you cannot even see it anymore. You cannot see how electricity is a form of dark magic. You just cannot see it. And I can just say that it's sad, because it is magic. And it has to do with channeling energy, even electricity. Right? It has to be wanted to exist. And since a lot of people demand electricity, electricity is being supplied. So I'm just using what is there anyway, but I'd rather live without it. I'd rather live without it. Right, so it's just much more interesting to feel your way through the darkness, without people barging in and trying to get a glimpse of what you're doing, which is why I have pre-recorded my content so far into the future, so that I could stop recording myself. I mean, it's just something that happened, and just close the curtain on myself as an individual and say, hey, but I can continue to write books, I could continue to make movies, but I just don't want to film myself anymore. Because it's just too easy to judge someone. I have left enough. That's what I believe. But I cannot say, right, maybe at some point I'll do something, whatever. But I don't believe it's necessary. I can just communicate my messages, because I just know how this works, You film yourself at home, people just want to get to the goodies, right? They just want to copy you. Yeah, copy this. It's not that easy, right? Copy this. Yeah, you want to copy how I put up my apartment so people think like you figured something out? Well, I copied no one when I set up my apartment. I copied no one. I just did what I felt like. Usually on days where, I just wanted to stop living. I'm just saying it the way it is. If that's too hard for whatever platform this is on, well, then I also cannot help it. I just painted my walls with colors to remind myself what I'm here to do. Because otherwise I just wouldn't forget it. Otherwise, I just would forget it. So I am simply embracing the idea also to continue with my podcast, to continue producing content, but I also had acknowledged, well, I'm kind of running out of money. I mean, I just spent the last money I had. So I am now down to zero. Again, once again. I don't know how this happened. I still have food left, but you know, I've been struggling for years now. And in December I have to pay the server for my website, which I have just put a lot of work into to add my yoga section. And I said I wouldn't drink coffee anymore, so that's also the message to any creator. If you want to establish yourself, then you cannot always stick to what you've said. Sometimes you just have to push it. You just cannot masturbate any longer. And that's a fact. You have to stop doing this. And then you can continue working hard so that every ounce of energy that you receive can flow into content. And if it doesn't flow into content, it goes into regenerating yourself. And that's gonna be hard. So you really need to stay focused. If you cannot focus anymore, then you gotta rest. So I simply get to the point where I really wish I could just listen to music, and then it simply annoys me so much. I just need to stay in the moment. I have to listen to the messages I receive through spirit. And sometimes I just want to, I just want to have my space back. I just want to hear nothing. Sometimes I get to these points, and then all this hectic stuff is just gone. So it's confusing. I lose myself while I talk, which is why I need to learn how to focus. Right now I'm focusing on my left hand, which is resting on my thigh or my upper leg. It's not my thigh, or maybe it is, who can tell. So, focus points. Like, my right foot is on the edge of, because I cannot always stand. I have a standing desk, but I just don't always manage to stand. I've been living alone for 3 years. I've been doing my hikes alone, just to gather strength, and because there was just no one to help me. Like, no corporal form. I had help through spirit, but that often doesn't feel enough, because it seems so surreal. You just have to accept this, right? Sometimes help comes in the way, like it came to me now. I still had 3 tablespoons or 4 tablespoons of coffee powder left. I didn't want to drink it because I had said I don't want to drink coffee anymore, because I was uncertain of what it really does. It feels really shadow stuff. I don't know. But I had many things that I could only do because I gave in to drinking coffee. So I was a little bit afraid. I knew I have an open book project at the moment, but I have also 7 other book projects already on the line, which I am eager to start with, but I have this all to do still. So sometimes you really have to just focus on one thing and finish it, because now I had these artworks that I still had to do. I felt like this rising pressure. So you get work through spirit. You say you're self-employed, how do you know what to do? You listen to spirit. But there's also pressure building, and then there's messages coming in because you're quiet, your channels are open, you listen. The message is, you gotta work on the website. Like, what? And then you hear this, but you see no one, you don't know who's telling you this. It seems like it's connected to some other energy that you recognize, but you're not quite sure. It's just like a really strong urge to work on your website. Oh, whatever. I wanted to work on my book. Yeah, but there's no time, man. Okay, I wanted to work on these artworks, and then it says the website has priority. You say, okay, you know what? I'm just a vessel. I enjoy working. That's how you have to see it. I'm just gonna do this as long as I get to be creative. And then I really had to dive into HTML again. Set up a new file, but use the ones I already had, because I'm not sure if you ever created your own website. It's a form of language, HTML, but you get a lot of support from the internet. I can only encourage you to do this if you like languages, if you like language, but don't just want to learn random languages. Just create your own website, and then you can keep building on it. Mine is probably not, completely fixed. I'll probably work on it a couple of times again, but I like it the way it is at the moment. Anyway, so it's your own personal space, but you have to feed it, you have to maintain it, and also should display how you feel about yourself maybe at the moment. It's like your personal identity online. But it also needs updates, so you need to go with the times, but also with the demand. You want to advertise yourself as a creator, right? So you have to put yourself out there. So I just wasn't sure if I should put my art onto my website. Until now I have decided against it, because there's just so much of it. Plus I have created these art videos. It's just a lot of stuff, and I just don't know where to put it. Nobody can get to the bottom of my Instagram account. Plus, they just shut down my Facebook account for basically no reason at all. Well, they may do the same with Instagram, right? So you just don't know. It's censored. They don't need a reason. And maybe it was good for me. It gave me one thing less to worry about. But it's just really frustrating if they don't even give you a reason. So, yeah, it's tough to say, right? So content creation is clearly about learning how to communicate. It has to be kind of child-friendly, right? Which is why drawing something like a cartoon makes sense. So you cannot openly criticize, like some of these health regulations, but you can draw a broken syringe, right? And that's it, You're not gonna say anything about it. Why is the syringe broken? Well, there's a hammer and it's breaking it. And you can draw a mosquito that looks like a syringe, and then say, let's say, Vaccinatus anneceriensis. And then it's a species name. It's called Vaccinatus, yeah? Or the energetic leech fly, how I have named it in some of my images. And then it's hard to pick up, because I truly believe that content in the world of content, the online world, there were sometimes strange things where some of my content was I just got like a warning, especially if you talk about stuff in the health sector. You get a warning, you're not allowed to do this, blah blah blah. Okay, so I had to adapt. So I cannot openly say this disease thing that came in waves. From 2021 onwards, right? I may not be able to name it, because once I name it, I truly believe there are like bots out there. And these bots, it's basically like an algorithm that scans your content for word patterns. So if the thing picks up a certain word, it may look for other words. So it's not always the people who spend time with your content, is what I find, that may signal, like give a warning, and then you get a strike, depending on the platform, of course, on which you publish. Which is why I can just say that odyssey.com. It's saying that I already am, now you see what I'm struggling with. I'm already afraid this will lead down to my YouTube channel being cancelled, because I'm also working for the competition, or with the competition. They actually help me, because you need credits to upload your stuff there on odyssey.com. I said I can't afford it. They just charged my account with lots of credits so I could continue to upload my stuff. Anyway, I'm just telling you, I don't want to get you overly suspicious. I just want you to become aware that also with the introduction of AI, they have created smart bots that can scan a creator's content for certain trigger words. And that's just running off all the time. And also stuff you record and stuff, right? So until you really get a footing as a creator, you have to break through a bubble, and you don't want to be flushed away by the hype. So when you're working in content creation, you have to prepare yourself to be successful. And then you have to know what your position is. Are you gonna get sucked into talk shows? Because that's not really what you wanted to do, right? You wanted to be a creator. You didn't want to sit in somebody else's chair where 500 other people have sat already before. That's not really what you're there for. You have to have a message. So my message is, do your own thing. Somebody's talk show is not my thing. Somebody's podcast is not my thing. I have my own shows. And I like to keep people mostly out of it. Unless, of course, it's like a project. And I don't say I'm never gonna appear anywhere, but I don't really see the use, because I have already said it all. Nobody has to ask me. I have literally interviewed myself. And I can continue to do so. And I get better at it. And then I don't have to answer weird questions or face judgment of an interviewer. Or even potential criticism, because I really don't want this. So you have to choose. Are you gonna stay faithful to yourself and just push through the tight spots. Meaning focusing on being alone, you're just alone all the time, and then just creating. So I don't believe that I will never draw images again. I just have to see. So maybe my sketches, if I would have a good team of animators and other people, I'm just saying I am open to this, but I'm not gonna, I will just continue doing what I'm doing unless, an opportunity arises. So I'm just saying to you, you just gotta figure yourself out. So I'm not saying I'm never going to do this again. I'm saying it's really hard work. One of these images sometimes takes me hours to get the motivation, to have the energy. In 2 days I ate 1 kilo of peanut mousse with herbs and with spices like nutmeg, and I'm drinking really potent tea, really strong black tea. I cooked it with nutmeg and green cardamom. Actually, I ran out of green cardamom, I believe, or did I still have it for this one? I think I used it on my last coffee. I drank the coffee just to push myself into finishing the website. So yeah, sometimes you just lose track of everything. You just have to let go into creation, and I just cannot do it without the food. Which is why I also continue to work, because I say, at some stage, this has to be good enough to earn a living with it. Otherwise, why have I done it all? It just would then seem so useless. But what it leads to, whether it leads to me earning a living by giving talks and traveling around, I don't know. I wouldn't really travel around the world, but I would probably visit a neighboring country or something, and then stand on a stage a couple of times. But I've written a lot of books, and a lot of people are about, I don't know, I'm just living here, I've got internet, I can just look at stuff. Yeah, here, look at this. Look at this. I got really good at communicating stuff, but you have to spend time with it. So yeah, it's a tough ride. And it's kind of annoying. But it's a bit like a hate-love relationship. So it's a lot also about timing, but also making the most of the time you have. So once you've got the energy, you just have to keep building your dream. Because I may run out of time, I just don't know what's gonna happen. I'm at a point now where I just don't really know what I'm supposed to do other than continue. And that's what I can tell you. Every time you finish a project, you've reached like a milestone, something is different then. But it doesn't mean that tomorrow you're gonna be rich or something. And you may never be rich. Your wealth may be more like an inner wealth, a feeling about, hey, I kind of like what I do. But you don't have to be rich for that. In order to continue what you're doing, you don't need millions. You could just earn a stable living so you can, just buy food and pay your apartment and your rent and stuff. That would already be an improvement from where I am. But yeah, I have done a lot of work. Still, you don't just get an apartment, not even as a son, right? Not even as the child of your parents. Doesn't mean you're gonna get an apartment just because, I help in my family a lot. I give a lot of stability. But for that I also push myself into heights. I stop playing around. I focus on my job. And I simply say, hey, that's the only thing I'm gonna do. If I cannot do this, then cheers. But I also have local projects, so I need to be trained in doing hikes so that people can come with me and it's gonna be nice. Because that's what's really gonna help us. Learning how to get people into nature. This is just something you do for people who are really stuck at, sinking into their phones or their screens. But while you're doing this, you can show them, hey, get back to nature, man. Yeah, how am I supposed to do that? Well, just work hard and start making experiences in nature. Nature is not to be taken lightly. It is the greatest challenge you can face. And that's what I truly believe. Anything else is just child's play. And that's probably with or without shoes. So sometimes I don't understand why. Why do I have to eat all this peanut mousse? Why can't I just have the energy? Why can't I just sit here, meditate, and just feel good about doing this? Why does it have to be so hard? And then you just accept it. Well, for whatever reason, nutmeg works. Green cardamom works. Cinnamon works. You don't need psychedelics. You just need resolve. And then your life will show you what works. Well, if you show allergic reactions to peanut mousse, then I suppose you should do some cleansing. Because a reaction is often an overload. An allergic reaction is usually due to too much stuff. You're too sensitive because there are too many disturbing factors in your body. And then the peanut just adds to it. But there is technically no reason to have an allergic reaction to peanuts. You could just do your cleansing. I'm just saying. So I don't really have allergies, but there are things I sometimes find hard to digest. But you need to work with that. So sometimes I just lie. I basically sleep on the ground. I have a really thin mattress. It's just way better to learn to work with hardship. You cannot be whiny, because content creation is still like the jungle. It's really vicious. I mean, there's people who would just love to see you go down just because they're bored. They like destroying things. Yeah, you have to survive this. But you also have to find your own rhythm, which is why I stopped creating, daily videos for YouTube. It's ridiculous. But I just did it for some time, just to show, yeah, I can do a lot of stuff, but it's really hard work, especially if it's getting more refined. Especially if you have, I want to write books. I like writing books. What's like? What does it mean I like writing books? It's not that I like writing books. It's just that I continue to read books and they annoy me because they're just missing something. I just I just want to create my own kinds of books. Because I do like books better than this stuff you see on screens. Because a book is like, that's 200 pages. It's an entire message. And then it all happens in your mind, no screens involved. And that's what I like. You can read a book, there's the candle. You have a candle on and it's raining and you're reading a book. Nice. And I'm just stuck at writing then. I don't have to film. I don't have to do a lot of stuff. But I'm not only gonna write. I know that now already. So this is really intrinsic stuff. Like, if you don't know what it's like to sit in darkness, but to still look at stuff, you can really look into topics. Like, you can go with your mind into topics. And then your mind shows you, like, a direction. This is really nice. But it's also really, really hectic. And the voice you're hearing, please believe me when I say this, does not give credit to who I have become. This voice is basically I have trouble identifying with myself as a bear, because I have become a bear. Only when I look at these images, it just seems super childish. But with a book, it's not cute the way I write. It's not cute at all. But if you talk a lot, then this is the voice that allows me to speak longer. If I make my voice too strong, then it's too hard. And it's probably then too intimidating. Because the people I work with then with my content are people who have been injured emotionally as a spirit from an early age on. They have been trampled. They're like saplings on the verge of dying. This is the dog that's like shrinking into a corner. And that's how I feel basically. Now, for the first time in months, I have turned my doorbell back on. But I couldn't, it was a pull, there was an inner pull. I couldn't avoid doing this. Because I also acknowledge defeat, I have to be open to visitors, or else I'll just shrivel away. And I have been living a lot in the shadows, for good reason, because my life has been simply really strange. So I just wasn't sure what's going on. And yeah, all I know now, because I have built my life in a way that I can be in a city, because I believe we need people in cities. Yeah, okay, but you as a creator, and I can guarantee you this, if you want to make strong content, so maybe that's what you want to know, how does he get his strength? I go hiking barefoot in nature on a regular basis. And in the last couple of months, I have refused to cut my beard or my hair, which is to me strange, because I don't know how long is it gonna get. If my hair is growing to my butt, I'm probably gonna cut it. But there's a chance that hair doesn't actually grow. So it's also an experiment I'm going to make. Okay, how long is my beard really gonna get? If my beard is part of manifestation, but I channel a lot of energy into content, then my body may not have, and if I sit around and I just channel all my energy into my hair, maybe then I'm gonna have super long hair, but I'm not doing that. So I believe at the moment that it is actually possible that if you don't sit around trying to grow your hair super long, that it's just gonna stop growing at some point. So they said Jesus' hair was never cut. But on all the images you see of him, be this real or no, he doesn't really have super long hair. But if it was never cut, and he was crucified at the age of 30 something, I mean, from a little child to 30, there's a lot of time to grow a lot of hair. So I believe if you're also active as a content creator, that your hair doesn't grow super long. But it's hard to say, right? It would also be a nuisance. I mean, imagine a Viking. Like the hair of a wolf grows to a certain length and then it just falls off or something. I don't know how this works. Like, animals don't grow hair after a certain length. So why should we as humans grow hair? So it's an experiment, but if I'm running the experiment and I get information on this, then I could have an insight based on an experience that I can include into my content, and that's how you can give value to things. So you need real life experience. So I'm going hiking, and for the past couple of weeks I started in February. On the 9th of February I started advertising hikes online. Yeah, for the local people here, right? For the local people. One already joined. And now we have the 27th of May 2025, and I started on the 9th of February. I think until March or April I did, every 2 weeks I did a hike, and these hikes are roughly 30 kilometers. Some were 40, between 12 and 18 hours was the duration of these hikes. The longest were 17 to 18 hours, and I left the house really early in the morning at sunrise, which is at the moment around 5 something. And then I simply hiked to a lake, like a freshwater lake, which is about 15 to 20 kilometers away, depending on how I walk. And then I swim there, which in May is still fairly fresh. Plus, if you've just walked up to 20 kilometers to get there, you may not at first feel like, I really feel like swimming. Yeah, so the last couple of weeks I have done this hike every week. And it's just strange because, I don't know, I often feel like, right, like Don Juan speaks about it, you want power. But often after these hikes, and the only power is in nature, which is why go barefoot. I mean, in a way, it's shamanism what I'm doing. But the only thing that trains a true shaman is nature. So if somebody says he's a shaman, then look at the feet. Look at the hands. If somebody wears glasses, then he is no true shaman. Shamans can only come from nature. Shamans have to be like lions, like panthers. If you're not scared of the guy, like if you don't feel blown away by his presence, then forget it, man. It's just one of them talkers. So that's what I've been doing. And now I had 2 more sketches. This is now not the last one, which I had to work on. But you know, you just cannot do what you think, you know, like what you'd rather do or whatever. You have to work bit by bit, and sometimes random things come. So to me it's a bit like the Rubik's Cube, which I'm still working on, trying to get to speed solve it at some stage. I find it super hard to memorize these algorithms that you need for speed solving it, because there are just so many of it. But every time I, you know, work on, you know, it's just so many different shapes, but they don't come as often as you think they'd come. This is like working with energy. You think you know what you're working with, but it still takes shape, you know, and it keeps changing. And this is why also looking at darkness, understanding darkness doesn't have a fixed shape, it keeps moving. But neither does the light. I mean, I have looked at people's faces and they change. You know, things just change. Sometimes things just vanish, and then you have to go and retrieve them. Just like your motivation. So if your motivation vanishes also as a creator, then go and retrieve it, which means you reach some kind of a dead end. You as an individual need to make your own experiences, your own growing. You are not just there for the people, you are also there for yourself. And I see myself in nature. Like my life is a lot about what is a man. Finding these lost men. This is also my way of basically transforming transgender in my own way, because that's what people need. They need stability. That's why so many young children are so confused, because they look at these people like they're just no true men. We need true men. And true men are intimidating, right? That's why once you start getting stronger, I can tell you, man or woman, a lot of people are going to probably attack you for all kinds of ridiculous things. Test your strength. People will test your strength. I mean, this starts when you go shopping. People will try to test your boundaries, you know, see if they can trigger you. So yeah, I mean, this is an uncomfortable topic, but because a lot of my energy comes from eating a lot. Because sometimes I just know I'm in a project, I cannot just leave the house, I just have to push through. And then I just eat a lot of food. Yeah, I mean, and then your whole apartment stinks, because it's gonna create a lot of gas, of course. But I have stopped eating sugar. Now, a couple of days ago I bought a packet of dates. You see, it's not refined sugar, but it still has something sweet in it, which is just energy. And then I had something at home, which I picked up from Africa. It's called Leonoros or something. I'm just telling you, if I'm under a lot of stress, it's not cannabis. It's something from Africa. It's way milder, but it can still help you to dream. but it's not as strong, and it should never be smoked. I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't know. It's some Leonorus. I think something like this. African. I don't have the. Yeah, I usually delete all kinds of emails. It's just not really. Yeah. I just don't feel like eating. I think I have it in one of my books. Let's check. And then I have to continue working on this artwork, which is still taking shape. Okay, let's check. Because I'm very organized. Also my laptop, your project files always have to be deleted. I'm only giving you this species name now because I believe that the only people who get to this point of this creation will know how to work with it respectfully. Okay. No. So it's not in mentality of a warrior. But then it is also not. Okay, what have I written before that? I talk a lot about Leonidas. I thought it was called Leonos. Okay, if it wasn't in these two, or right before this, it wasn't this one. Was it this? Nah, that's really unlikely. I thought I had put it into one of these creations. I may just have mentioned this. Let's just check again. Wow. It's just sometimes crazy when you're looking at all this stuff you have done. You want... I mean, it's the worst thing if you've written books and nobody's gonna read them. I mean, I get it. Not all of my books ought to be read. I mean, not all of them are worth reading. I think it's like African lion's ear or something. Okay, I'm just gonna look it up. Yeah, but I've basically said it all. I just thought I felt like doing a recording. Hey, that sounds nice. Yeah, you see, I've said it. Leonurus. Okay, no, it's called Lion's Tail. Leonotis leonurus. So for anyone who's working with severe pain, stress, somebody who just cannot properly rest, you just feel completely stuck. I completely got rid of cannabis. I mean, if I would know about wild plants that are a bit like cannabis, or if there would be wild cannabis where I live, I'd work with it. But it's not here, and I cannot buy from dealers. Simple because I just don't want to. So I found this online. It was really cheap. I bought, I think, 50 grams or 100 or something for a couple of euros. It's ridiculous. And that's what I had been introduced to in Africa while I was in South Africa. That's what they had. Wild dacha, they called it. Dacha, they didn't call it wild. It was just dacha. It's more like a shrub. But it has these flowers. And I recognize the taste. It's similar to what I got in the bush. But there I mostly smoked it. But that's the first experiences I had. Like the strongest experiences I had was when I created an oil. So you create a water bath. And then into the bath comes like a metal container or something. And in there you put your oil. I use now butter. You can use ghee. You can use coconut fat. I like butter. But you could use also oil. But I like butter. And then you put whatever amount of this. You can put hash into it. And then you keep it hot. So it's not going to be fried. It's not going to be really cooked. It just needs to steep, is that the word? To seep? To just be hot. And that's how the extraction happens. The best thing is, of course, if you can keep it heated for around about 8 hours. I usually do it like this. I have a pot. I bring the water to a boil. Like in the pot is then I have a really small outdoor cooking gear pot. It's probably 500 milliliters. It has a lid. So I have a small pot. Into the pot comes water. And then in this comes the small outdoor stainless steel cooking pot. And into that I put then 250 grams of butter and then maybe 2 handfuls of this. This could be strong, I'm just saying, but I wanted it to be strong. Yeah, and then on top comes another lid. Okay, and then you bring it to a boil. And then I either just turn it off or let it boil for some time so that the butter keeps heating, but indirect heat, right? You want the indirect heat, not to burn it. And then you place it you can place it like I have my own self-crocheted hat. I can take the whole pot, place it in there, then it stays warm longer, and then I can save energy. And then after a couple of hours, I just take it, heat it up again, bring it to a boil again, do the same thing. I do this maybe 4 or 5 times. Then I have an adequate extraction time. And then I sift off the lion's tail. Keep it, because it always contains still a lot of oil. You don't want to waste that. You want to be appreciative of the resources, because you don't know how your life will turn out. I mean, you may have to live with very little for a very long time. And then you sift it off. You store the butter in a jar. Keep it in the fridge until you want to use it, or you just use it straight away. And then I usually make some kind of a bread out of it. I use the lion's tail, what I sifted off. I put that into a bread. Just make a dough with it. I use corn and chickpea flour. And then I also added still some of the butter to just make like a butter pie. You could add some dates to it. Like, I'm just telling you, refrain from using sugar. And then I'd add nutmeg, cinnamon, like freshly ground nutmeg. If you're smart, you can find cheap, like stores where they sell nutmeg quite cheap. I have this one store, I'm not sure they're aware of it, but you can get a bag of 15, it's like a little Thai shop. Or, not really Thai anymore, but it's more like Indian type. It's just got all kinds of stuff. And you get there about 10 to 15 nutmeg for €5. I believe this is quite cheap because this lasts me for, several months. And I know that I've got this, right? That's an investment. Nutmeg is really potent. But you just have to make sure to never masturbate so that the energy flows into content. Yeah, and some days I just don't have the strength to do my animal movement. So I just stick to my laptop, work off a project, and when I'm done, then comes the time for celebration, right? That's just how I feel like. Okay. So cinnamon, nutmeg, pimento. And then you can make like a butter cake. But don't use gluten. I'm just telling you, it's not that good. But figure it out for yourself, and don't use yeast. And try to stay away from the sugar. Like, it's just something you have to get used to. So I also work with a lot of bitter, because now you hear something about content creation. Bitter. It's either the Heidelberger, Heidelbeger. It's the herbs, 7 herbs of Heidelbergers. The Heidelbergers, 7 herbs. You can use it as a tea, but you can also make bread with it. It's like also a bread spice. It's got bitter herbs in it. But you can also collect your own dandelion roots. Only I am struggling for time a lot, which is why I have collected dandelion roots, but at the moment I cannot do it. And that annoys me. But if it annoys me, then I simply have to work hard. Okay, this recording is coming to an end. I think you've got enough to figure yourself out. because I didn't have this kind of content. Terence McKenna never talked about diet. Ram Dass never talked really about diet. He didn't really have to cook for himself. This is very specific stuff. Also check out, of course, green cardamom. Check out black cardamom. That's an interesting spice to work with. And then you really gotta figure out what works for you. Also in terms of tea. You don't want to be stuck drinking coffee all the time. Coffee should be, when you get there, then coffee should be something. It needs to be well placed. In the beginning I drank a lot of coffee, but you cannot keep doing this at some stage, so I exchange it with black tea. It's a bit different. And then you simply continue to look for ideas. You have to be really devoted. I'm constantly placing information and insights and just images into book projects, but also into other kinds of projects. I continuously have project files open in my mind that I'm feeding. But yeah, you always have to look at what's the most important thing to do now. So yeah, this is all in a way still advertisement. To say, hey, I've also written books, right? Yeah, it's not funny. It's a really serious thing. It's still business. You still have to deliver. And you still are working on a schedule, because if you are creating content, then people are waiting. And they're gonna get angry if if they know you could deliver, but you don't do it. And that's all I had for you in this one. Leonotis leonurus. Lion's tail, wild duck. Dagger, but